Roughly 60% of people in the Eastern Cape live below the poverty line, and as youth unemployment in the country continues to soar, initiatives to empower them are in dire need. It's not that there aren't ideas for new businesses, but rather a severe lack of support and, of course, funding for those wanting to make the jump into entrepreneurship. So, what is it that can be done exactly? We've got Anelisa Zono, who's a businesswoman, activist, a radio presenter and philanthropist, who's going to help us answer that question and more. She's, of course, the owner of the indaba, the founder of Black Entrepreneurs Empowerment Program, and the founder of the Eastern Cape Hustlers Awards. She's committed to uplifting the youth in her province through different business initiatives that she's been involved in. And she joins us now. A very good afternoon to you, Anelisa, and thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. It's quite the work that you have been doing to uplift young people in your province in particular. But when you engage them and you try to provide the different platforms for them to create their own business ventures, what have you found have been the biggest challenges for them?
Thank you, Rofiwa, and good afternoon to the viewers at home. Basically, most of the time, whenever I would meet with young people, specifically from the rural areas in the Eastern Cape, there is one common problem that each and every one of us are facing, which is the lack of resources, specifically when it comes to funding. Many young people in the Eastern Cape have ideas. They know exactly what it is that they want and they want to do in order to change their lives. Young people in the Eastern Cape are hungry for opportunities. They want to be taken seriously. They don't want to be looked at as those who, I would say, stereotypical thoughts out there that are going that the Eastern Cape is, yes, it is disadvantaged, but the province that is always complaining about this and that. But they want to be taken seriously. They're complaining about the lack of resources, seemingly as though the government is not giving them enough opportunities to penetrate so that they may be able to pursue their dreams, start their businesses so that they can succeed. Moreover, when we're speaking on opportunities, there's always one thing that I'm mostly concerned, and most of the time I advocate and talk about, which is the red tape. Some of these young people, let's not forget that in the Eastern Cape, we do have colleges and universities, but not to a standard or a level at times as the big cities, you name them, Cape Town, hence some of them leave to these big cities. But the main problem is that these resources are not given to them so that they're able to access them. They stay in rural areas. Sometimes it is difficult even for them to travel to the city so that they're able to get bursary forms. They're able to get forms for funding, being it from NYDA, ECDC. So those are some of the problems. The red tape that is there that makes it very difficult for the youth in Eastern Cape to access those resources so that they can be supported. Hence, I advocate for change and for the government to actually take notice of young people.
That's a very important point there, for the government to take notice of young people. The problem is that provinces like the Eastern Cape, Anelisa, and you might testify to this, are marred in various allegations of deep-rooted corruption. And so whether it be local, provincial or government at a national level, they are not able to meet the needs of young people. And you, of course, have been a participant in a number of debates, including one that included the State of the Nation address delivered by the President of the country, Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa. So what kind of conversations are you having with local, provincial and national government leaders about what the immediate needs of young people are, and government needing to focus on that and cleaning up the different offices at the different levels so that the basic services can be provided to young people as they need?
You touched on corruption, something that I believe we cannot run away from. It is something that each and every one of us right now, it is a crisis. It is one of those things that I would say it is a pandemic. But then again, with regards to the SONA debate, it was one of the things that we touched on. I remember there was even a question that was asked if the law in South Africa Is it the law? Let me put it in simple terms. Whereby I remember answering this question and thinking that it seems as though when it comes to corruption or the law in South Africa, it only favors the privileged, and then the disadvantaged and the underprivileged in the Eastern Cape. Then it becomes a problem whereby for them it becomes a challenge, because the law seems to apply to those who are disadvantaged, to those who have nothing, and then the rich, and then it is, I would say, it is favorable for them at some point. So now, when it comes to young people, they want to take up space, and conversations like this, they need to be had, not only from Anelisa, but even from young people themselves. I believe as though they also need to start initiatives, create organizations whereby they will not sit at home with those organizations. They would go and knock at these doors, whereby political leaders, I believe there are some who will give them an ear, some who will open up their doors. Yes, we are aware there are gatekeepers. People at times when we knock, doors are not being opened, because sometimes it feels as though you need to depend to a certain political party for those doors to be opened. But there are some who will give them opportunities that they will need. They need to be listened to. They want to start co-ops. They want to start businesses. Young people in the Eastern Cape are not lazy. They are not sitting down. So the government has a big role to play in opening those gaps for young people, not to favor certain groups, but for everyone, because they are hungry.
And that's a very important point that you've raised. And of course, there we go into issues around challenging the government, the provincial government in the Eastern Cape, to be saying we have young people who are not lazy. We have young people who are willing to bring up their own lives and those of the community members around them. So 2 points I want you to touch on in this instance: the skills development and the education levels in the Eastern Cape to create the necessary skills for young people to create jobs and entrepreneurial ventures for the future.
Yes. Skills development and training should be created for these people, but bearing in mind at the same time that some of them in the Eastern Cape might not be that educated to understand. So when it comes to skills development, let's make sure that we do those initiatives, including the government, but at the same time making sure that they are done in languages that people may understand. It is one of those things that at times it becomes a barrier when it comes to language. So skills development is very important. Not only that, but to create employment for young people, because some of them may not want to start businesses, but others may want to create their own. They may want to be employed. They may want to start to be employed and get a job. So skills development is very important. And at the same time, after they've gained those necessary skills, let's create employment for young people, because for them to be employed, it means that they'll be able to feed their families, take their children to school, and create better opportunities even for South Africa as a whole. But then again, there's one thing that I believe that it is very important I want to touch on, mostly when it comes to the issues that we are facing in the country. Next year, 2024, we have to vote by all means possible. If we as South Africans, even young people, we are saying we are not happy with certain things, we are not happy with A, B, and C, let us stop complaining. Let us start taking an initiative. Let's start taking ownership of our lives. Let us go register to vote and vote for the government that we want. If we are saying we are not happy or we are happy with the government that we have, then let us make our voices heard by voting next year, 2024. This year, let us make sure that we register to vote.
And then just a final thought from you, Anelisa. You are an entrepreneur yourself. You have gotten into various business ventures, entertainment, and many other things that you have delved into as a business person in the Eastern Cape. For someone who's not willing to wait for government, for someone who says, I want to put my hand up and create opportunities for myself now and for my community members, and I'm not going to wait for government, what piece of advice would you give them?
It is exactly as you've said, Rofua. The advice I would give is that the time to wait for anybody to come to your rescue is gone. The time to wait for somebody to come and hand you something in a silver platter is no more. This is the time whereby young people need to take ownership of their lives. This is the time where young people need to start doing something for themselves. I always say, if you want people to take notice or for you to have help in terms of whatever it is, initiative, whether it's a business or anything that you are doing, you need to do it and believe in it yourself. The help that you need will find you along the way. Waiting and sitting and complaining for somebody, or even complaining and saying the government doesn't do A, B, and C. What if the government then does not come? Then what's going to happen? It is a time where young people need to stand up and do something. Whether or not the help comes, let us stand up, because at the end of the day, this is for your benefit, not only for yourself, for your family, and those that are looking up to you as an individual. So that is the only advice I would give them. And moreover, it is for the young people to believe in themselves. Don't wait for anyone to be your cheerleader. Some people will not say kudos, you are doing well. So it is up to you to believe in yourself, to fight for whatever it is that you want. And believe me, it is going to happen at the end of the day, as long as you believe and you work towards it.
Anelisa, thank you very much for your insights this afternoon. That is Anelisa Zono, who is the owner of the Eastern Cape indaba and founder of the Eastern Cape Hustlers Awards, speaking to us about the challenges of young people in the Eastern Cape as we wrap up Youth Month in a few days' time, just highlighting the initiatives that she's embarked on with other community members to make sure that the youth are getting what it is they need to uplift themselves and, of course, their communities.